Nobody wants to admit this, but those breathing exercises, positive affirmations, and just be yourself advice, they're not working for your social anxiety. They never will, because they fundamentally misunderstand what's really happening when you feel judged in social situations. What if I told you that the solution to social anxiety isn't eliminating fear, but reversing its direction? What if instead of being the one who fears judgment, you become the one whose judgment carries weight? This is Machiavelli's reversal, and it's about to change everything you thought you knew about social power. Let's be brutally honest about what social anxiety really is. It's the desperate need for approval combined with the certainty that it will be withheld. It's the feeling that others are evaluating you and finding you lacking. But here's the truth. No therapist wants to articulate. This feeling persists because on some level it's accurate. People do judge. They do evaluate. They do categorize. The social world isn't a nurturing space of unconditional acceptance. It's a sophisticated hierarchy where respect must be earned, not freely given. Nobody respects you. You notice it even if you don't want to admit it, as one philosopher put it. It's not that they openly despise you. It's not that they blatantly ignore you. It's worse. They tolerate you. They smile at you out of politeness. They listen to you out of obligation. This tolerance masquerading as respect is the root of social anxiety. You sense the hollowness of these interactions, the performative nature of others' attention, and it confirms your deepest fear, that you don't matter. The standard advice for overcoming social anxiety focuses on internal state management. Control your thoughts, regulate your breathing, challenge negative assumptions. While these techniques have their place, they fundamentally misdiagnose the problem. Social anxiety isn't merely a cognitive distortion, it's an accurate reading of your social position. When you lack boundaries, consistency, and self-respect, others instinctively sense this weakness. They may not consciously register it, but their subconscious does. If people don't respect you, it's because they are not afraid to fail you. And if they are not afraid to fail you, it's because you never made clear what happens when they do. This isn't victim blaming. It's recognizing the reality of human social dynamics. Respect isn't given freely. It's earned through consistent demonstration of self-worth. When you continually accommodate others at your own expense, when you lack clear boundaries, when you fear conflict more than you value yourself, you teach others how to treat you. Niccolo Machiavelli, often misunderstood as advocating cruelty, was actually a profound observer of human nature. His most controversial insight, that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both, contains a psychological truth that directly applies to social anxiety. The core of Machiavelli's wisdom isn't about terrorizing others. It's about understanding that respect stems from predictable consequences. When someone knows with certainty that crossing your boundaries will result in defined, consistent outcomes, they develop a healthy fear, not of violence or cruelty, but of losing your good opinion, your time, your presence. As one interpreter of Machiavellian principles notes, respect is not begged for, it is imposed. Not with screams, not with violence, with presence, with firmness, with a cold and calculated strategy. This is the reversal. Instead of fearing others' judgment, you become someone whose judgment carries weight. This transformation from anxious to authoritative rests on three foundational principles. First, predictable boundaries. Most socially anxious people have boundaries as blurry as their identity. They contradict themselves, justify themselves, bend their principles, and then wonder why nobody takes them seriously. True authority begins with one rule: predictable consequences. Not emotional, not impulsive, not furious. Predictable, like gravity. When someone crosses your line, something happens. You don't need to shout or threaten. You simply need to act consistently. Real authority starts with one rule: predictable punishment. Not emotional, not impulsive, not furious. Predictable, like the law of gravity. If someone fails you, they know something will happen. This isn't about punishing others harshly. It's about valuing yourself enough to maintain consistent standards. When you allow someone to disrespect you without consequence, you're not being kind. You're teaching them that your boundaries don't matter. Second, the fear of regret. This pillar moves beyond basic boundaries into more sophisticated territory, making others fear disappointing you rather than fearing you directly. It's not about making them fear you. It's about making them fear disappointing you. That they know if they do, you won't need to shout or humiliate or punish theatrically. You'll just leave them out. No drama, no explanations. The absence of someone who commands respect weighs more than the presence of someone who begs for it. This subtle art transforms the social dynamic completely. When people value your presence, your good opinion, your attention, they will work to maintain it. Not out of terror, but out of respect for what you bring to their lives. The socially anxious person gives away their presence too cheaply, making themselves constantly available, desperately seeking inclusion. The socially powerful person makes their presence valuable precisely by making it contingent on respectful treatment. Third, the window of redemption. The final pillar separates the respected from the merely feared, offering a path to redemption. This is what separates a leader from a tyrant. One opportunity to rectify, but clear, limited, non-negotiable. Those who fail once and learn strengthen. Those who fail 3 times and remain are using you. By offering a second chance, but only one, you demonstrate both strength and wisdom. You show that your boundaries aren't rigid tyranny, but principled standards. You allow for human imperfection while maintaining your self-respect. This balance is crucial. Too harsh and people will resent you. Too lenient and they'll disrespect you. The window of redemption strikes the perfect middle ground that earns both respect and loyalty. The transformation from anxiety to authority requires understanding a fundamental psychological principle. Scarcity creates value. When you are always available, when you give without measure, people start taking your presence, your effort, your generosity for granted. What is abundant is despised. What is scarce is valued. Social anxiety drives people to overcompensate, to be constantly available, to agree too readily, to sacrifice their own needs for approval. Yet this abundance approach backfires spectacularly. Consider how you perceive those who make themselves scarce versus those who are always available. Who generates more curiosity? Who commands more attention when they speak? Who seems more valuable? The answer is obvious, yet counterintuitive to the socially anxious mind. By carefully regulating your presence, by being selective with your time and attention, you increase your perceived value. This isn't manipulation, it's simple human psychology. At the heart of this transformation lies the ability to control your emotional responses. Social anxiety is fundamentally a reactive state. You feel triggered by others' perceived judgments and react with fear, which then reinforces your subordinate position. The one who loses control, the one who reacts impulsively, the one who is carried away by anger or anxiety becomes predictable, manipulable, and weak. Emotional mastery doesn't mean suppressing emotions or becoming cold. It means developing the ability to choose your responses rather than being driven by impulse. When someone disrespects you, the socially anxious person either lashes out or withdraws in hurt. The socially powerful person remains calm, evaluates the situation, and responds strategically. The one who can't be provoked, the one who maintains their center no matter what happens, that is the one who truly has power. This composure isn't just impressive, it's profoundly unsettling to those accustomed to emotional leverage. When you can't be provoked, when your emotions aren't easily accessible to manipulation, you become the most powerful person in any room. Understanding these principles intellectually isn't enough. Social anxiety is deeply ingrained, and transforming your approach requires concrete steps. First, identify your current boundaries. Most socially anxious people have never clearly defined their boundaries, even to themselves. Begin by asking, what treatment will you no longer accept? What are your non-negotiable standards for how others speak to you, treat your time, or respect your opinions? Write these down explicitly. Be specific. Instead of vague principles like respect, define exactly what respectful treatment looks like to you. Second, create consistent consequences. For each boundary, define a clear, proportional consequence for violation. These aren't punishments, but natural outcomes of disrespect. They might include removing your attention, ending a conversation, declining future invitations, limiting access to your time, or withdrawing your assistance. The key is consistency. If you enforce a boundary one day but ignore violations the next, you teach others that your standards are negotiable. Third, practice strategic distance. Begin regulating your social availability. This doesn't mean becoming a hermit, but it does mean being intentional about where and with whom you spend your time. Stop responding instantly to every message. Decline invitations that don't genuinely interest you. Create space between yourself and others that allows them to value your presence rather than take it for granted. Fourth, develop emotional composure. This is perhaps the most challenging aspect, as social anxiety creates powerful emotional responses. Begin with small exposures to triggering situations while practicing remaining calm. When someone says something that would normally provoke anxiety or anger, pause before responding. Take a breath. Consider your options. Choose your response rather than reacting automatically. Fifth, embrace selective silence. The one who speaks the least, the one who explains the least, is the one who commands the most respect. Why? Because silence creates uncertainty. Uncertainty creates curiosity, and curiosity gives power. Practice speaking less but with more intention. Resist the urge to fill silences or over-explain yourself. Say what needs to be said, no more and no less. When you do speak, do so with conviction and clarity. The path from anxiety to authority contains several pitfalls that can undermine your progress. Mistaking cruelty for strength. Some interpret Machiavellian principles as license for cruelty or manipulation. This fundamentally misunderstands the purpose. The goal isn't to hurt others but to establish healthy relationships based on mutual respect, rather than exploitation. It's not about being cruel, it's about being strategic. The key is knowing when to act, when to speak, when to retreat, and when to attack. True power doesn't require domination. It requires clarity, consistency, and the courage to maintain standards even when uncomfortable. Overcorrecting into rigidity. As you begin enforcing boundaries, there's a risk of becoming rigid, unforgiving, or overly harsh. Remember that the goal includes the window of redemption, allowing people the opportunity to learn and adjust to your standards. Flexibility within clear principles isn't weakness, it's wisdom. The art is in knowing which principles are truly non-negotiable and which allow for adaptation. Confusing fear with respect. While Machiavelli noted that fear is more reliable than love, true social power comes from a combination of healthy fear, consequence, and genuine respect, value. Fear can be useful, but it's fragile. Respect, when built on consistency, is indestructible. If people only fear you but don't respect your character, intelligence, or contribution, your power will be shallow and ultimately unsatisfying. The goal is to be respected for your consistency and valued for what you bring to others' lives. Any discussion of Machiavellian principles raises ethical questions. Is this approach manipulative, self-serving, contrary to authentic connection? These concerns reflect a fundamental misunderstanding. The transformation from anxiety to authority isn't about manipulating others. It's about refusing to be manipulated. It's not about controlling others. It's about controlling yourself. And it's not about preventing authentic connection. It's about ensuring that connections are based on mutual respect, rather than exploitation. The most profound truth is that respect benefits both parties. When you command respect, you create clarity that actually reduces conflict. People know where they stand with you. They understand your expectations. They can make informed choices about how to engage with you. This clarity is ultimately liberating for everyone involved. It replaces the anxious dance of uncertain social norms with straightforward, dignified interaction. At its core, social anxiety positions you as the object of others' judgment, a passive recipient of evaluation and approval, or disapproval. The Machiavellian reversal transforms you into the subject, the one who evaluates, who sets standards, who determines value. This shift in perspective changes everything. No longer are you frantically wondering, what do they think of me? Instead, you calmly consider, what do I think of them? Do they meet my standards? Do they deserve my time and attention? This isn't arrogance, it's self-respect. It's recognizing that your time, attention, energy, and presence are valuable resources that should be exchanged only for equivalent value. When you truly internalize this perspective, social anxiety becomes impossible. How can you fear the judgment of those whose opinion you're actively evaluating? The power dynamic is reversed. Machiavelli's reversal offers a path out of social anxiety that addresses its root cause rather than merely managing symptoms. By transforming from the judged to the judge, from the feared to the respected, you reclaim your social power and eliminate the foundation of anxiety. This path isn't easy. It requires courage to set boundaries, consistency to maintain them, and wisdom to balance firmness with compassion. It demands that you value yourself enough to expect respectful treatment and walk away when it's not provided. But the rewards extend far beyond eliminating anxiety. When you command genuine respect, you attract people who value substance over appearance, authenticity over performance, quality over quantity. Your relationships deepen even as their number may decrease. Respect is also selection. It's knowing who has proven to deserve your time, your energy, your trust, and ruthlessly removing those who haven't. The ultimate irony is that in learning to be feared, not in the sense of terror, but in the sense of consequence, you become free from fear yourself. The respect you command creates a space around you where anxiety cannot survive. And in that space, you discover what was impossible before, the ability to be genuinely yourself, without performance or pretense, secure in the knowledge that those who remain in your life are there because they value what you truly are, not what you pretend to be. This is Machiavelli's gift, properly understood. Not cruelty but clarity, not manipulation but mastery of yourself, your boundaries, and ultimately, your life.